Hey everybody, this is Dust for Dusted on Gaming, recording some previously played matches with Boros Burn here. Just warning, this league's a little bit sloppy, a little bit weird. I played it Sunday evening while working on some other stuff, watching a buddy of mine stream, etc. So, not exactly the most tightly played Burn thing in a while, but we didn't end up going 4-1, could easily have been 5-0. There were some technicalities and stuff, we'll get into that as we play the matches. Same list as I play with the PPTQ, and so that list has not changed much. Really haven't been given a reason to change it much, unless I see a bunch of humans in the friendly leagues. So, alright, here we go. Alright, first match against Death and Taxes. See if we see any things that I missed while playing these matches. Alright, saying, pretty straightforward. This is on the lower end of keepable. You got 4 burn spells, 3 lands. I usually like a creature or 2 in my opening hand, but this hand's perfectly fine. Opponent decides to keep it. We lead off on Shock In, suspend a Rift Bolt, go. Opponent plays Flagstones. I'm thinking Smallpox or a Maria at this point. Bolt my opponent. Draw another land. Kind of one of the risks of the hand we played. Opponent goes Thuriban Inspector. So the jig is up. We're up against mono white taxes. Draw another burn spell here. Opponent ghost quarters themselves. Kind of randomly at a random time here. Path to exile their own guy. Guess trying to play around Searing Blaze here. I just spike at this point in case they have Thalia. End up playing Thalia here. I bolt them in response, put them to 5. We Searing Blaze their Thalia. They play Leonin Arbiter. We play Rift Bolt, and we kill them. Not exactly the most interesting game 1. Game 2. This matchup, I tend to bring in the Path to Exiles and the Searing Bloods and board out some amount of the non-creature interactive spells, either Boros Charm or Lava Spike, stuff that doesn't immediately target creatures. I also bring in the Grim Lavamancers. This is the kind of hand I was talking about where you have 1 drop into some burn spells. In this matchup, you need to prioritize using your fetch lands early, so that is an important piece of the puzzle sometimes. Opponent has some I hate burn stuff going on in his sideboard. Leonin Arbiter is kind of whatever here. I go ahead and Helix or go ahead and attack, or don't do anything. I guess I suspended a Rift Bolt here. Suspended 2 Rift Bolts. So the line of play I might have should have taken was Lightning Helix the Leonin Arbiter here, but okay, yep. Opponent ghost quarters our land. They go ahead and go to attacks here. So I'm saying I should have Lightning Helix their guy. They could have prevented it with Forge Tender here. They don't prevent the Rift Bolt, so we just Rift Bolt their face. Attack in. Opponent doesn't block for fear of Skullcrack. Opponent plays a Fiend Hunter, so we go ahead and fetch here. Helix their face. Get their mediocre beats on here. We attempt a Searing Blood. Sorry, Lightning Helix their face. Which is kind of a win for us, but then they play this Auriok Champion, and it just kind of gets messy from here. Because then I have all these burn spells and nothing to target them with. So they start their slow creature beats. Go ahead and try a Searing Blood their Selfless Spirit just to slow down their clock, even though I realize Searing Blood isn't going to have much of a chance of connecting there. Opponent plays Militia Bugler, and at that point we just kind of, they've got too much damage on the table, they're gaining too much life, we just can't win that game. So opponent brought the sideboard hate for game 2. Game 3 was a little bit bizarre. So this is our hand. Our hand is reasonable with a couple creature interactive spells and some racing tools. No creature though, which kind of sucks, but when you only play 8/1 drops, you can only do so much. Once again, prioritize using your fetch lands in this matchup. So 3 of an Inspector. Go ahead and Rift Bolt their face. Play out an Eidolon here. Can't do anything. They go ahead and play a Lehman Arbiter here, which is fine. We play our fetch land, we Searing Blood them, we attack with our Eidolon, they block. And then they path our dude. Then they play Horizon Campy, which is just horrible against burn for Athalia. We have a billion lands. Thalia isn't doing much. They take another point of damage to play Militia Bugler, which is fine. They whiff. No, they get an Auriok Champion, I guess. So, go ahead and Helix them an end of turn. Draw a Goblin Guy, which isn't going to do much, but I play it out as a blocker. I go ahead and attack here, put them to 3. They have Auriok Champion, which is fine. And they play out Leonin Arbiter, which is net neutral. And then attack with Thalia here, and then we just cast a Rift Bolt and kill them. Not exactly the most interesting matchup. Pretty cut and dry, nothing too weird. The next matchup, I ended up playing against my buddy who was streaming. And this was more trying to get him some practice in the burn matchup than anything, so I ended up sort of kind of conceding the matchup. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. Keeper opening hand. I know he's on Aetherworks Marvel. Our Marvel has Puzzle Knots main, so that's a little bit tricky, but this hand is pretty reasonable against them. Either on the play or on the draw, I'll get 1 drop into a bunch of spells. This is the kind of hand I usually like. So opponent, getting with Goblin Guide here, they reveal Glimmer of Genius. There's an Ether Hub into a Tune. Searing Blaze isn't the best in this matchup. We're giving him some lands. Hold up Skullcrack. Here comes the Puzzle Knot. Go ahead and crack him. Man, it's going to be a little tight on us, so we go ahead. Suspend the Rift Bolt. Cast the Lava Spike. He goes a Tune with Ether, plays another Puzzle Knot, goes up to 11. Go ahead and play out this Lightning Helix, put him to 3 here. He plays out Aetherworks Marvel, gets a spin, finds a Rogue Refiner, and then obviously we just kill him here. That was game 1. We won through 2 Puzzle Knots, which was nice. They did get a Marvel spin, which could have led to an Emrakul or something coming down and won the game, so that's kind of a... He got 1 shot, 1 opportunity, and he missed, so. Game 2, this is where... this hand's obviously kind of a clanker in the matchup. Eidolon, a couple Helixes. Pretty sure I end up mulliganing this. Yes, I do. This hand's fine, but we have a couple white spells and a white source, so I end up keeping this. Scry a Lava Spike to the top. This hand's likely too slow in the matchup. Play out the Rift Bolt. Opponent has nothing on 2. They have Negate, so obviously they did have something on 2. We find our white source. They play out Rogue Refiner. They have 5 energy, so it's unlikely they'll be able to spin Marvel the next turn. We go ahead and Lightning Helix them on end step. Play out our lands. Opponent. See, this is important. Opponent missed an attack here, so we should be at 20 here. I go ahead and do that. Lava Spike him. Knowing there's a very good chance here we're probably going to get Marveled this turn or breached. Opponent ends up breaching an Emrakul, drops us to 8. We should be at 5, notably. We draw Skullcrack. He draws nothing. We draw Boros Charm. Draws nothing. Draw land. Here we could have won the game, but out of respect for the fact that basically his deck's done absolutely nothing since through the breaching, I just kind of, in the 3 points of damage he missed, I just kind of let it go to a third game because I felt he honestly should have won under most circumstances here other than his deck breaking off. So I kind of dogged it a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a friend. But Skullcrack it, we could easily have put him in 1. We draw a land here. He starts... We should be at 2 here, notably. And then the Rogue Refiner, and then he plays that Servant of the Conduit. We draw a Goblin Guy, play that out, pass the turn. Like I said, we could have ended up... easily could have ended up 2-0 winning the match here. But he did brick on a Marvel Spin in the first game. In the second game, he just bricked off. So, game 3... So this is why I said I sort of conceded the match, because I still played Game 3 to the best of my ability. It just didn't pan out. So, as much unluck as he had in Game 1 and Game 2, I ended up keeping this hand. We have a couple of 1-drops, a couple Eidolons. We peel a land. This hand's kind of ridiculous. We grow a Goblin Guy, start swinging in. See a Servant of the Conduit. Play a land. So we're drawing 1-drop spells, which is cool at least. Plays that Servant of the Conduit. We get a Swift Spear. He trades off. Plays another Servant of the Conduit. We have no good attacks here. He plays Marvel. He spins Marvel. And hits an Emrakul. And that's the match, because Emrakul stays in play, unlike through the breach. So that was our loss. Could easily have been a win if I had gone all out and wasn't a friend. So take that as a grain of salt. Match 3. Very salty opponent at the end. We'll see why here in a minute. It's against Mill. Mill's generally a pretty decent matchup for Burn, especially when we start out on the play. This hand, obviously, 1-drop into a bunch of spells. Pretty good against most decks. We play Goblin Guide, we swing. They show us Swamp, which doesn't tell us much, and then they play Island into Hedron Crab. Gives us a Searing Blaze target, which there aren't too many in the deck. There's Manic Scribe and Hedron Crab. And we know not to fetch the rest of the game, pretty much. Opponent brutalities us, which is kind of rough. They take Lightning Bolt, which was interesting. Mesmeric Orb out. Skullcrack them in response. Play a bunch of burn spells. We still know not to fetch. They play Manic Scribe. We play that. They can go ahead and Archive Trap us if we want, and we Skullcrack them for the win. Game 2. Salty, salty, salty opponent. Opponent's post board, besides having the Collective Brutalities in the main deck, also has Crypt Incursion. Sand, once again, pretty awesome. 1-drop into 1-drop, 1-drop. Go ahead, they play on Island. We don't get Archive Traps, so we're lucky there. Opponent sees a Manic Scribe on top. They Thought Scour themselves. They do Visions of Beyond. Obviously, we're going to get Fatal Pushed here. Triggers Darkslick Shores. Push our guy. Plays Mesmeric Orb. Wait a sec here. Opponent Inquisitioned us and took Boros Charm, right? Bolt them. I missed some damage here by not Lava Slicking them. Oh, I was holding up Skullcrack, that's why. So my opponent Crypt Incursions us, complains about us drawing a Skullcrack, but we had a Skullcrack when they Inquisitioned us. Okay. Alright, so my opponent kind of screwed up themselves there, and then salted off about how lucky we were. Okay. Didn't realize they had screwed up themselves, and they were yelling at us for it. Match number 4, I believe this is Blue-Red against Blue-Red Delver. Once again, 2-land hand. Have a Rift Bolt and Lightning Bolt on 1, Searing Blaze or Eidolon on 2. See what our opponent's up to here. We play out that, play out the Rift Bolt. Opponent leads on Delver. So generally speaking, as much as I want to get Eidolon down here, I think it's just important to get that Delver off the board with the Blaze, especially while they don't have counter spells up. Using this Goblin Guide as bait, they remand it, which is kind of bizarre. Put them to 9 here, they play Opt. Go to combat, they kill it, we play it. Did I suspend Rift Bolt here? It's possible I should have played Eidolon here, but I also would have been playing in the Spell Snare, so maybe that wasn't the best thing in the world. So I bolt their face here, they go to 6. They play Soulscar Mage. We bolt their face, they remand it. We play resuspend Rift Bolt, they start getting in for some damage. They Nimble Obstructionist our thing here. We go for Boros Charm, and they don't have Counterspell. So, pretty easy game, even though we never actually deployed Eidolon. And then, final match, or final game of the match. Obviously this hand's pretty reasonable. Have Bolt into either Blaze or Eidolon again, so pretty good hand. When I play as Delver, we just bolt the Delver, get their pressure off the table. Soulscar Mage is kind of whatever, but I do believe we Searing Blaze that. Keeping their pressure off the board is just key, especially when they start doing this. So we get to play out Swift Spear, get in for 1. Play out Eidolon. They do nothing. We attack. They Magma Spray Eidolon, sure. Could have Boros Charm to save some damage there, but just much more fun to do this. Wail on them for a lot of damage. Put them to 1, they abrade our guy. We just Lightning Helix them, and that was the match. Match number 5 I could go through. It was Storm, and to put it nicely, my opponent was obviously learning their deck, because they timed out and played like 13 minutes to get through a turn cycle that involved getting rid of Rest in Peace and Eidolon and then storming off. And they literally lost game 3 in part to timeout. Although they had stormed off with a Rest in Peace in play, only had like a Grape Shot for 6, had basically emptied their hand, so they were at like 10 or 12, but had like 1 card in hand. We still had a Rest in Peace in hand, with an Exquisitive Firecraft in hand, so they were at like 12 or 13. Had kind of already blown their load, and we were probably in a pretty good position to win as long as we drew reasonably well, because it's kind of hard for Storm to win through Rest in Peace without like critical massive stuff into empty the Warrens. So I'm not going to bother showing that match. It was just it was pretty bad, honestly. They literally timed out playing Storm, which is unusual for most Storm players, but I suppose when you're learning the deck, it's entirely possible. But we ended up with a 4-1. Could easily have been 5-0 if I had just gone for the throat with that Boros Charm against my friend, but I wanted him to learn his deck. I was watching him on stream while he was playing. He ended up going 5-0. I think in that league he beats another Burn deck, a Goblins deck, an Elves deck, and I believe Blue-Eye Control. So he's playing Aetherworks Marvel, a deck that I haven't taken too seriously. I did a little bit of work with Aetherworks Marvel Can't remember if this was on this channel or my old channel where I did like an Abzan version of the deck. But my buddy's gone 5-0 a couple nights ago, and then last night he streamed and played against 3 burn decks, a Jund deck, and a blue-white control deck. Ended up going 4-1. His only loss was to one of the burn decks. So, deck seems pretty legit. I have my own take on his list. I'm going to be streaming here in a few minutes, but wanted to get this play-by-play caught up. And so, 4-1, not the best league in terms of like technical play and stuff. Had a lot of pretty simplistic matchups. Couple salty opponents, and a match we should easily have won to go on 5-0, but, you know, sometimes it happens. So, this has been Dust for Dust On Gaming with a quick recap of a burn league that I have played, and I need to get set up to start streaming some Aetherworks Marvel here in a month. So, I will catch everybody later.